Welcome everyone to today's Safety on the Farm for Kids presentation. And we wanted to take a few minutes here just to discuss some of the safety items that we need to be considering with more kids being around the farm this spring. So this presentation, it's going to be pretty short here. This is for both kids and adults to watch with their kids to talk about some of the safety that we need to be thinking about with everyone being around this spring, and a lot going on with the virus and a lot of craziness out there. We just want to reiterate some of the important topics here for having kids on the farm. Most importantly, to keep in mind here is we want you as kids to be safe. You're on the farm more than ever, and it's a very busy time of year, not only this spring but into early summer. So this is for both you and mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, or even if you're over at a friend's house whose family farms, just to be aware of all of the things that are going on around and some things that you need to make sure that you are doing to stay safe. One of the most important things is making sure that someone knows where you are at all times. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to have a GPS tracker on you. We don't want to follow you like you're a dog. You need to know where the dog is at all times, but you do need to let adults know where you are and where you will be, because on the farm, there's all sorts of vehicles moving around. You have tractors and semis, forklifts, skid loaders, lots of big equipment going around, and it's important that adults know not only where you are, but what you'll be doing, and just to make sure that you have permission to be moving around the farm. Another really important thing is that you always, always, always wear your seatbelt. There's no reason to not wear your seatbelt, and that's for any piece of machinery that you're in, whether it's a tractor or a combine or a semi or any other trucks and vehicles that you may be in around the farm. It's such an important piece of equipment that there's no reason that you shouldn't be wearing it, especially as a kid. And this means as a rider, not only as an operator of the machinery too. So if you're going to be driving around the Gators or the Rangers or the ATVs, four-wheelers around the farm, make sure that you have your seatbelt on and are wearing a helmet, which we'll get to a little bit later here. Another thing is making sure that you have on proper protective gear, safety gear, and this is important for your hands, eyes, and ears are some of the big ones we want to make sure that are covered. You want to wear ear protection if you're around noisy items, whether it's motors or engines, tractors. There's lots of really noisy stuff going on the farm, so you want to make sure that you're protecting your hearing. Make sure that you're wearing eye protection if you're around anything dusty, mowing lawns. Maybe it's really windy out, or maybe you just need some sun protection for your eyes. Put on some sunglasses to make sure that you're staying safe out there. And again, if you're wearing gloves, it's important to protect your hands when you're holding and using tools or doing things that you could have pinch points around the farm. Just make sure you have an appropriately sized pair of gloves and that you're keeping your hands and fingers safe. One thing that's really important is that you stay away from any chemicals on the farm. These are things that only adults should be handling. In fact, a lot of these chemicals actually require special licenses and training requirements, and so there's no reason that you need to be moving these chemicals around. Sometimes they're funny or really bright colors. They might smell bad. They can even hurt your eyes and hands and make you very sick. And if you happen to be walking around with your siblings or someone else that's on your farm, or if you're on someone else's farm, make sure that you're keeping those young children away. Toddlers and real young babies sometimes grab anything that they can and like to put it in their mouth, and it's very unsafe, especially around these chemicals. So not anything that you need to be super scared of, but if you see any of these symbols, that look dangerous, or they have the red diamond or this red square around them, just make sure that you're staying away and it's nothing that you need to be playing with. This time of year with spring and headed into summer, there's lots of seed, and whether that's in the warehouse or the shop or a building or even just being moved around the yard, you need to understand that these are very dangerous, that they could tip over or fall, whether it's windy or someone bumps it with a tractor, or if you happen to be on them, they might be unstable with how they're setting. So it's not a fort. Don't play between them, because you never know when someone could come to grab that bag or box of seed, and just make sure that you're staying safe, and again, that people know where you are at all times. And with the seed too, looking at the chemicals that we were just talking about, don't touch any colored seed. That colored seed has a chemical coating on it, which is good to help protect the seed, but it's not necessarily good for us if you're not having the proper protection like gloves or eye protection, or that you're not breathing in any of the chemicals that are on that seed coating. So just make sure that you or your siblings or friends or other young ones out there aren't actually playing with that colored seed. It's very important that you never go under machinery or equipment. This is something that only adults should be doing because they know the proper safety precautions that they need to take in order to do this. You should never be under there for playing. You should never be under there for working, even if an adult needs your help or asks for your help. If you pass them a tool, pass it underneath, and then just make sure that you're not underneath that piece of equipment, because accidents do happen. So again, there's no reason that you should ever be underneath any machinery. Stay away from grain bins and elevators. So they have lots of ladders and stairs on them. Kind of looks like a big jungle gym, and they're actually, you know, they're useful for what they're used for, but they weren't built for kids or young people to be climbing on. There's lots of safety equipment, safety tethers and lanyards and other protective gear that should be worn when on this equipment. And if you don't have that gear and don't have any of the training on it, this is not something that you should be playing around on. The other thing to go along with that too is a lot of times there's semi-traffic, there's truck traffic in and out of that area, and there's just no reason to be playing in that area. If you have adult permission and supervision for cleaning up around that area or helping with other things that need to be done there, that's okay. But just again, be sure that someone knows where you are and what you're doing, because this equipment is it's built for full-size, adult humans. So we want to make sure that those are the purposes that we're using it for. I think most importantly, out of all of this safety thing, that if you walk away from this presentation or this video with anything, is that if you feel unsafe, don't do it. There's no reason for you to be doing unsafe farm operations, and whether that's operating machinery, mowing steep ditches or areas that you don't feel comfortable with, getting into small spaces, or anything to do with chemicals or electrical work or just big pieces of machinery. I know that those were things when I was growing up that I did not feel comfortable doing until I had an adult teach me how to do it, teach me how to operate it safely, and more importantly, waited until I was big enough and understood the machinery well enough to actually operate it. So we just want to make sure that you are feeling safe with the things that you're doing, and if you don't, just stop what you're doing and be sure to ask an adult for any questions that you have. When approaching a tractor or a semi or a truck, it is so important to remember that if you can't see them, they can't see you. And this isn't just with the mirrors on the side of their pickup or on the side of the tractor. If they don't physically make eye contact with you, then they can't see you, and you can't assume that they are. So keep a distance, make sure that you're making eye contact with them. The machinery should always be stopped. Never approach a moving tractor or a semi or a vehicle. Make sure that they are stopped, and if you hear backup beepers, move and get out of the way and watch out again, because you cannot assume that they see you. This is incredibly important, and I need to make sure that all of you understand, if you are approaching this machinery, you have to be aware that they can see you. So the tanks that you see in the picture here are anhydrous ammonia tanks, and this is gas that's very cold and under a lot of pressure, and it's great for helping crops grow, but there's no reason for kids to be around this at any time. There are just too many safety factors that go into this. Again, that compressed gas is very, it could be potentially explosive. There could be leaks. It can cause burns or eye injury. It's just something that kids don't need to be around, so we want to make sure that you are staying very far away from these tanks as we move through the spring and the summer and even into fall operations. I wanted to make sure that we hit on mowing here really quick because I know that's something that a lot of young people do, and there are a lot of safety precautions that go along with this because unfortunately, every year we hear of an incident or an accident where a child gets hurt very badly from a mower because proper safety precautions weren't taken. So this is the same thing that if they don't see you, you can't assume that they understand where you are, right? So you need to make eye contact just like you would with a tractor, just like you would with a semi or a truck. And when mowing, you need to make sure that you're the right age, that you can operate it and understand it, and the right weight. You know, sometimes with these machines, they actually need more weight, 70 or 80 pounds minimum, in order to allow the machine to run. If you don't meet that age or that weight requirement, you shouldn't be mowing the lawn. So if you are mowing, you need to make sure that you always have adult supervision, that someone always knows where you are and what you're doing, and that it's a safe environment. You should always be wearing the seat belt that's provided, and make sure that the rollover bar, the part that comes up behind the head there, is always up. So in the incident that a lawnmower would tip over, that protects you and keeps you safe in a rollover. You need to understand where the emergency shutoff is for the lawn mowing deck so that if you come up on a rock or something goes wrong, you hit that button or you flip that switch and the lawnmower will immediately shut off. It's very important that you stay away from roads and ditches, particularly steep ditches, because there's traffic, people go off the roads, sometimes people aren't paying attention or they're on their cell phones. It's just better for you to stay away, have an adult do those areas in the ditches and along the road to ensure that you're staying safe. And one of the most important things too is that you're wearing eye and ear protection for sure, and possibly gloves depending on where you're going to be mowing and what it is that you're going to be mowing exactly. So make sure that your hearing is protected with either earplugs or earmuffs, and also that you have eye protection because that lawnmower is shooting a lot of grass and sticks and other debris out the side of it that could be potentially harmful if it bounces off something and comes back at you. Driving small vehicles, it's really fun around the farm, and I think most kids that have lived around a farm or know someone that lives on a farm have done this, but it is important to ensure that you are staying safe here as well. So number one is always ask an adult permission and make sure that they know, again, what you're doing, where you're going. Always wear your seatbelt and just operate the machines at low speed. Just because it can go 50 or 60 miles an hour absolutely does not mean that you need to go that fast. There should be no reason for you to do that. Around the farm, you're not big enough to control the vehicle. You don't have the driving experience. Just enjoy it at low speeds, do the things that need to be done, and make sure that the parking brake is off when you get out, make sure that it's not in gear, make sure that you're shutting the machine off, and wear a helmet anytime that you're operating this equipment. Now, I know realistically for gators and rangers, not everybody is going to wear a helmet, but especially if you're on a dirt bike or an ATV, four-wheeler of some sort, have a helmet that you can wear, and also make sure that you are properly trained on this. Have an adult show you how to do it. Make sure that you're safe with it. And again, if you don't feel safe, don't do it. One of the final things that I wanted to talk about is working around livestock, and not all kids will be doing this. Not everybody has livestock, and not everybody will be working them this time of year. But when working around livestock, there's a lot of things to consider. Usually the livestock are bigger and stronger, whether you're working with sheep or pigs or cattle. Chickens, you probably don't need to worry about as much, but there's still some things that you need to stay safe with there. So, with them being bigger and stronger, you need to understand too that the livestock are not as smart as you and they're more defensive. So always work cattle with adult supervision. If you're doing chores or something that's very low risk, that's okay. But anything beyond that, you need to make sure that you have an adult around or that you fully understand what you're doing to ensure that you're being safe. And again, the most important thing is for you to be safe. During this time, we want to make sure that you get back to school. We want to make sure that you can do sports and activities and the other fun things. And so while you might really be enjoying doing these farming things, we need to make sure that we keep you safe and that we keep you healthy. So don't do something if you feel that it's unsafe. Always ask questions and stop immediately if you are unsure about anything and ask an adult. So what to do with your parents, those silly parents, right? You want to make sure that they are doing things safely as well too. One thing that you can do with them is ask them to walk around the farm with you, point out any hazards or anything that you may not fully understand, and just ask them questions. There's no silly questions when it comes to the safety side of things. And when it comes to operating machinery or the lawnmower or that small vehicle that you might be using around the farm, just ask them to show you how to do it. And if they say that you're not big enough to do it or that they don't feel safe with you doing it, just understand that that's okay. There will be a time that you'll be able to do that. And, everybody will stay safe in the meantime. And an important thing to remember is doing the right thing is always the right thing. So again, if you don't feel safe, don't do it. If there's any question in your mind, stop what you're doing, ask an adult, and even if an adult isn't around, make sure that you're doing the right thing. We want to make sure that all of you have fun, that you stay safe this spring and into summer. Enjoy the time off from school. Make sure that you're still doing your schoolwork and things that you need to be caught up on, but I think there's a lot to be learned on the farm here as well. And if you have any additional suggestions, anything that I missed here that you think is important, please let me know. You can reach out to me and we would love to hear from you or your parents on this. And if your parents want to hear more on the farm safety side of things, be sure to listen in to our podcasts that we're doing on safety on the farm, particularly with kids. Stay safe, everyone.